Hey, gay. So, yet another historical event is happening all around me. And I, instead of doom scrolling, decided to organize all day. And I now decided to journal all the historical events that I have lived through. And I wanted to film this and talk through what I remember, what I remember, what I was thinking, what I was doing during these historical events. I journaled them over here. And it's by no means everything. It was just like whatever was coming to mind. And so, yeah. This is how I'm coping. I cope by never shutting up, I've found. And I need to cope right now because the world feels a little bit cuckoo banana bears. So let's reflect on all the moments that have come before. Let's have a moment for all of the historical events that we have lived through. And here's fingers crossed we're gonna make it through this one. We're coping. I'm scared. I'm very scared of political violence. Anyways, Obama. I was in elementary school when Obama was running for president. And when I was reflecting on what I remember about that era, I wish I could say that I was like, I think I was in like the 3rd grade. I honestly have no idea. I wish I could say I remembered being excited that we had our first black president. I wish I could say that I was an Obama stan. Unfortunately, the extent of my political knowledge at the time and opinions were entirely based off of. So the hit song at the time was Gangnam Style, and parody accounts made an Obama Gangnam Style remix and a Romney Gangnam Style remix with music videos. And in 3rd grade, it was clear to me that Romney needed to lead the country because his was just so much better. Like, Obama seemed like a good guy, but I wasn't gonna download his Gangnam Style remix onto my iPod, you know? So when he was elected, I was honestly a little disappointed. But I think but after that, I was like really chill with him. And I remember him being cool. I remember people being pissed about him wearing like a tan suit. Which I do remember seeing the tan suit being like, wow, I've never seen a president wear a suit like that. And God, I miss that kind of politics. Gosh, we were so young. So yeah, that's what I remember about Obama election. I also remember just like driving down the street of like down by Somerset Mall, if you are from whatever. But I remember people like holding signs saying some pretty wacko stuff about him, and I was just like, damn, y'all. Like I didn't love the Gangnam Style remix either, but like, I don't know. They seemed a little pressed. So that's how I perceived our first black president's election, which now I'm like so well, never mind. We're not gonna get into any more of that. What do I remember about? Okay. The financial crisis, I remember my parents fighting because I wanted money for the Scholastic Book Fair for more erasers, and obviously times were tough. And I remember them just like crying and fighting a lot. Me being like, I just want some fucking erasers. Um, I remember I remember my mom and teachers being very upset about Sandy Hook, but I don't think I really fully comprehended what was going on, but I do remember having a nightmare that happened in my classroom. So that's like that was interesting to reflect on because I do think what is unique about so I'm 22. Um my generation is sort of the first to grow up living during school shootings as like a regular thing. Like Sandy Hook was 2012. Um and yeah, when I was journaling, I just remember some of the other ones. But yeah, I do remember just sort of like a feeling of like, what the fuck? And then, yeah, I think I found out at recess. I don't know. So we're gonna zoom ahead because the next 8 years are pretty uneventful in my child mind. I don't have a lot of memories of anything else that goes on during the Obama presidency. I feel like I was just sort of thought he was hot and cool. And I remember really there used to be a lot of memes with Obama and Biden, with like Biden like whispering to him like, Barack, let's punch him or whatever, and him being like a quirky whatever, and like Obama being like, no, Joe. Um, gosh, that unlocked that memory. Um, wow. Let's zoom forward to the next thing I wrote was Trump v. Clinton. That whole 2016 era was so I remember first seeing Trump in like a Twitter meme. And like I remember his face being fucking everywhere. He was such a meme. And I remember it being like funny. I remember it being like a joke and it did not feel legitimate. And then every time he just kept exceeding everybody's expectations. And I was like, holy shit. And then Clinton, she was a flawed individual. And I think at that time, I think that there was a lot of built up anger from more conservative folks who'd sort of have been biting their tongue for 8 years during Obama. And I do, obviously this has been said, but Trump's rise is a direct response to Obama's presidency. It's a lot of white anger and race politics. And yeah, I remember that was like when I started realizing my friends had different politics than I did. And that was like a very weird experience. Because, like, people who I considered to be like really nice, whatever, it was like, oh, we're very far apart on this. And yeah, I remember people arguing in the lunchroom. I remember people fighting over like the MAGA hats. I remember, yeah, like people standing up and screaming at each other in the lunchrooms, over Trump v. Clinton. Um, yeah. And then I didn't stay up the night of the election. I remember staying up and watching a bit, seeing the trend was sort of going not the way I and my mother had wanted it. And I went to bed, and then I woke up in the morning. My mom told me, like, Trump is president. And I remember, like, a really eerie pit in my stomach that morning. And not to say, like, I was right or anything. Like, I'm... Hot take. Trump's, like, not a great guy. Hot take. I don't trust him. I know. Ooh. Hot fucking take. But yeah, that's what I remember. And then it was high school. Oh, then it was Parkland, and then the March for Our Lives. David Hogg. Parkland happened, and David Hogg was around our age in high school, and we had been witnessing so many over the years, and it had become sort of just routine with like the thoughts and prayers kind of shit. And I remember hearing stuff about walkouts, and I remember my English teacher sort of telling us that she like can't do it with us, but she supports anybody like doing the walkout at X time. Like we told the school, and everybody, it was like an organized national thing. They knew, and like we weren't gonna get punished for doing it. And I remember not really understanding why. I remember there was a lot of like news cameras in our faces, and I remember like helicopters overhead, and we like walked out and walked down the street to like the park nearby. There was just like a lot of helicopters. I remember a few of like the loner kids who didn't really like talk to many other people were like counter protesting and carrying like American flags and stuff. So that was interesting. And I wrote a paper on the March for Our Lives, so I sort of really dove into all this stuff again. But if you haven't in a while, I would go watch. I mean, there's so many documentaries about it, but seeing how David Hogg was treated and persevered, yeah, he started the first night that he was filming was he went back because it was like 12 hours after, and his little sister had lost a few friends, and he went back because he couldn't listen to the sound of her like crying screams anymore. And hearing that, just I remember his face being like so many figurines, cartoons. He was like the poster child for gun control, and therefore people were fucking ruthless to this child. And yeah, that sort of sucks. Sorry, I am trying to balance coping and like talking about all these really serious world events. Process them. And my coping mechanism is humor, so I am gonna be silly goofy in here. But yeah, this shit was actually like really fucking hard, and the fear that I felt during these times is like it's hard to reflect on because I just feel like I haven't necessarily taken a real exhale. And I don't know if that's just me being anxious or the fact that we are living through unprecedented times. Anyways, March for Our Lives actually was the first, made a lot of progress in regards to common sense gun registration, gun laws. And so that was like sort of cool to research recently of like the long-term impact of what we did back then, and we really did make an impact. And it was after years of all the adults sort of saying like thoughts and prayers, there's nothing we can do. It was since the Vietnam War the largest student protest in our history. So I think that's pretty cool that I like participated in something really, really massive. Even though I didn't really understand what it was at the time, you could feel that it was like important. So yeah, that was 2016, or I don't know when that was. Next thing you wrote was the impeachment of Trump, number 1 and number 2. I also just remember so many of his cabinet people resigning throughout his term. And I remember being in like AP Gov or something, and everybody joking that like naming all of his resigned cabinet members was gonna be an AP question in the future. And we were like, felt bad for the future kids because we were like, holy shit, because so many people have resigned. Which is just crazy to think about now. In the situation that we are in right now. Yeah, and then 2020, I was a senior in high school during 2020. How lucky am I? And what a year. Where do I start with 2020? I guess I was in AP Psych when on the intercom they told us that something was canceled. Like maybe some sporting event. They canceled something over the intercom, and then my next period was like my 6th period, and it was like the last one. It was my speech and debate teacher, Mrs. Clark, and we were sort of, and it was like a debate class. We had very open conversations like this every day about tough topics, and Mrs. Clark sort of like was talking to us about what might happen, and it was like we might have to, go in line for a week or maybe 2 weeks, and then and we were like, what? And they were like, yeah, scientists are saying like this is gonna be big. Like at one point, maybe all of us will know somebody who's gotten it. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. And 4 years later, I'm like, I don't even know how many times I've had COVID at this point, because do any of us? It's just sort of like part of life now, which is wild. And still mask up. Long COVID is real, obviously, and wash your hands, you nasty girls. But what you doing? What you doing? What you doing? Okay, don't be weird. Okay. That's also sort of why I wanted to do this, because I filmed a little like vlog to myself when all this was happening, going down, and I was like, girl, if you're watching this in the future, I really hope everything's okay. And I was just like really scared. My dad thought like the gas stations and all the shit was gonna like actually shut down. And we went to our cabin up north Michigan, and yeah, so I did the rest of my senior year online up north, and I spent 3 months living up north. And I just remember the quarantine kept getting extended and extended and extended. And at a certain point, just not hoping it was gonna end anytime soon. Like, I was just sort of resigned to my life of fucking whipped coffee and Roblox and not enough toilet paper. And yeah, I remember watching the news of how the government was handling it, and it was not good. So I remember that was stressful, and yeah, I was lucky enough that nobody in my family got seriously ill. Obviously, I knew a lot of people who got sick at certain points, but everybody I knew pulled through. But it was definitely just like very scary at first. And I remember Andrew Cuomo or whatever, the Cuomo brothers were such a big thing. Oh my gosh, I loved watching them on the news. And that shit was so funny. And then I remember all the shows trying to do virtual, like whatever, and it just like felt so fucking ew. I don't even know. It was just gross. So yeah, had my birthday up there, 18th birthday. That was so slay. And then graduation was, so I was supposed to be in the music video, yeah. But I was supposed to be the graduation speaker, and I was a nerd and I really enjoyed public speaking. And so not being able to do it in person was actually very sad to me. Yeah, I was very sad, yes. And then I had drive through graduation. And then, so we like drove through the parking lot and then hopped out of our cars, walked across the stage, got our diploma, hopped back in the car. Sort of like it was wild. And then we went back home to hop on the Facebook Live where they played the pre-recorded version of my graduation speech. And I truly, truly believe this to the bottom of my being. Me and every other 2020 grad has full license to be annoying for the rest of days over the fact that we lost our graduation. I will, and prom. And every other fucking senior year, I didn't get to do anything. Every like tradition that's like senior year you'll get to do it, didn't get to do any of them. None of them. And then I was going into college and I was going to U of M and I was like debating if I should do a gap year or not because it was just a little bit cuckoo banana bears. But my buddy Lily and I decided to just send it and go anyways. And COVID in college, let me tell you, not fun. Not fun. My other moments from COVID, though, let's focus in. The murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests that summer. That's, like, so weird to me when I was, like, writing it all out, because it just, like, it all blurs together so much. But I remember, yeah, being confused about if it was moral to go into a crowd or not. I remember being morally conflicted about that. It was just a weird time, because also at some points they were telling us not to buy masks because, I don't know. It was just a very confusing time. Also, Gretchen Whitmer almost got kidnapped. Forgot about that. That was wild. That was wild, y'all. Like, Big Gretch. I love that girl. I obviously don't love her. She's a politician, but respect that girl. I remember chanting, please don't make me vote for Joe Biden, back then. I remember really loving Bernie. Ugh. And yeah. So then COVID got the dorm shut down, so we were only in the dorms for one semester. So when Biden won, I was in a house off campus with a few of my buddies. And witnessed January 6th and everything on TV. It was just, I was just like, dang, this is cuckoo. But like, it was in the middle of COVID, so I was also just like, okay. And yeah, and then, where was I during the fall of Roe v. Wade? I was in Boston visiting my friend Lily, my roomie Lily, in Boston for her birthday. And I was on a long walk while she was at work, and then I saw my phone, and I just remember being very upsetty spaghetti. And my boyfriend at the time was a moderate. Guys, I learned, guys, I was unmedicated and I learned, okay? But he was a moderate, and I forced him to stand in line, register to vote in Michigan, and, because he was out of state, whatever, but we needed to just get it done so that he could vote for Prop 3, the protections on abortions. And then we broke up a few weeks later. But I was just sort of laughing like, damn right, I squeezed out a vote before we sent it off. Yeah, that was just my gender in the law class that I'd taken the year before. We talked about how it was very likely that it was going to happen, and all the challenges that would, like, hypotheticals that would need to be readdressed in the legal system after it fell. So then just to see it fall and to see everybody so shocked that it fell, I was like, damn. I don't know. I really love to learn and I love academia, but what frustrates me about it is, like, how much we know and how little impact it seems to have. And I sort of continue to feel that way about everything else that's happening. Oh yeah, and before that, Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying. RIP. I remember watching her, like, little workout videos with whatever talk show host she went on, and she was trying to stay alive so hard. RIP. Also, the government, like, talked about aliens. Did none of us, like, I know all of us have been sort of busy, but that happened too. That was crazy. Look it up. Yeah. And then more recently, everything that's been going down. Convicted felon, former President Trump. Felony conviction, wild. Attempt on his life. Assassination attempt. A little Claire's ear piercing. A little, just a little, I think it is a sad state of affairs when I am so deeply unsurprised by an assassination attempt on a former president. But there was some tweet, this is wrong. But we are condemning all political violence, and that does not stop at Trump. Somebody tweeted, because somebody was like, like, this man took a bullet for our country. You have to vote for him now. Somebody tweeted, 5-year-olds take bullets for this country every day. He's not special. And y'all, the amount of memes I've seen, y'all, like, I think we're all just jumping straight to silly on this one. It is a really, it's cuckoo banana bears. But also sort of sad that most people I've talked to were surprised it didn't happen earlier. And after recapping everything, I just remembered, so am I. Y'all, I have the same pit in my stomach right now that I did last time when he was elected. Like, I think that this has sort of cemented his supporters' view of him as a martyr and an underdog. Even though he is anything but. I'm gonna touch your hand when I say this. He doesn't care about you. Yeah. My mom, how did I find out about Trump? I guess my flashbulb memory. I was minding my business, gardening, and then I came in and my mom's like, dude, this hasn't happened since Reagan to me. I was like, what? And she's like, a president getting shot. I was like, what? And she's like, oh, you haven't heard. I was like, no. And then she's like, Trump just got shot. I was like, oh. And I wasn't shocked. Like, I wasn't shocked. Sad and scared, but not shocked. And what other thoughts do I have about what just happened? I have seen politics tear apart more people, more families, in the last few years than, yeah. Obviously, this is my only life experience, but the Obama years are so, like, such a blur, but my main memories of our government and politics is so just disgusting and disappointing. And I think it's frustrating when older generations are like, Gen Z will save us. Like, y'all put us in this position. And I don't know if we're gonna get out this time, y'all. I truly, I think everybody feels it. I feel like this is a pretty scary time. I think I'm scared that there's going to be a lot more political violence after this. I'm scared that his supporters are going to view this as justification for more acts of domestic terrorism. And I'm scared about how this will fuel conspiracy theorists and further sort of stoke that fire of distrust and isolation that I think a lot of people are experiencing. And but I also think Biden is a fucking idiot and is not fit for office. And I think that if he does not, nobody wants him. If he does not get off, if he does not step down, he is no better than Trump. He campaigned on the promise to bring calm back to politics. Well, look at us. Look where we're at. You did not succeed. You did not succeed. Unless you step down and let another candidate who is actually capable of coherently discussing the issues and why they are important and the policies. I think that I like a lot of Biden policies. I think he did a good job, but he can't beat Trump again. Trump will win. And the far right agenda that will come in regards to a lot of other female health stuff, what they would like to do, is scary. So yeah. added some glitter to the strawberries. And it's life is a mystery to be experienced, not a problem to be solved. So I'm trying to just experience life. Balance in taking news and obviously not in taking news. Yeah. All the silly goofy sort of got sucked out of the room. But thanks for listening to me ramble. And God bless America. No, but for real, I think I'm scared. Between you and me. Bye, Gabe.